All right, welcome everyone. Let's jump into our deep dive today. We're looking at morning affirmations, all that stuff you sent over, about how, starting your day with those positive statements, all that can actually, really affect your mindset and how you feel, right?
Hmm.
And I think some people think it's just kind of fluffy, you know, like just one of those feel-good trends.
Right.
But I was reading through this stuff, and there's some actual science behind it. So I'm really curious to dig into this with you.
Yeah, for sure. It is pretty amazing, like just thinking about how something so simple, like just saying positive phrases, can maybe even actually lead to changes in your brain. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that's exactly what caught my eye, too. I mean, we're talking about affirmations here,
Hmm.
those short, powerful statements that, the whole goal is to shift your thinking, right? And it's not just about thinking positive thoughts, but, actually, it's more about rewiring, I guess, those neural pathways in your brain, right? To
Yeah.
more resilience and motivation, all that. But how does that actually even work?
Well, it all comes down to this ability our brains have called neuroplasticity.
Oh, I've heard of that.
Yeah, it basically means like our brains can change, adapt over time, based on what we experience. So every time we learn something new or we're like practicing a skill, those pathways in our brain, they get stronger.
Right, right.
And guess what? Repeating these affirmations can kind of work the same way. I mean, by consistently, feeding our minds with positive messages, we're basically strengthening those pathways, the ones that are all about positive beliefs.
So it's like you're kind of, training your brain, like almost like working out a muscle.
Totally. Yeah, that's a great analogy. And just like working out, you need that consistency, right?
For sure.
That's why all this material is emphasizing, like creating a morning ritual, like having your affirmations as part of that,
Yeah, makes sense.
finding a quiet space, taking some deep breaths, and really like letting those words sink in, not just saying them without even thinking about it.
Right, yeah, it's about being intentional, right?
Yeah.
Like setting yourself up for a more positive day from the start.
Exactly.
Okay, well, you know me, I'm always up for trying something new. So
Yeah.
let's get into it. Let's look at some of these specific affirmations you've pulled from all this material.
Okay.
One that I thought was interesting. It said, "Today is a new beginning filled with endless possibilities." And I got to admit, some mornings I wake up feeling anything Beatty, endless possibilities.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I hear that.
But I mean, why could this affirmation be so powerful, you think?
Well, it's like hitting the reset button in your mind. It's like you're reminding yourself to let go of whatever happened yesterday, all that baggage, and just approach the day with a fresh perspective. It's not that you're denying their challenges or anything, but it's more about choosing to, like, see the potential in each day.
Yeah, so it's like choosing to see the world with, fresh eyes almost.
Exactly.
All right, okay. What about this one? "I am filled with energy and enthusiasm."
Oh, not.
Some days I could really use that, I
Yeah.
tell you. But I mean, do you think just saying this can actually make a difference in how you feel?
Well, think about it like this. Our thoughts and our feelings, they're all connected, right?
Right.
So when we actually focus on feeling energized, enthusiastic, it can actually like change how we feel physically. Even if you don't feel it right away when you say it, repeating that affirmation can help to kind of shift your thinking and tap into like your own energy reserves. You know what I mean?
So it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy
Yeah.
almost. Like you say it, then your body starts to believe it. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Okay, this next one caught my eye. "I choose to focus on the positive today." But isn't that kind of like ignoring all the bad stuff?
Not really. It's not about denying the negative or pretending that everything's perfect. It's more about like making a conscious choice about where you're putting your attention. We all have that choice, right? How we perceive things. So by choosing to focus on the positive, we're kind of training ourselves to be more aware of those like opportunities and the good things, even when there are challenges too.
Oh, I see. So it's about actively, looking for the good stuff, even when things are kind of tough.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, I'm curious about this one. "Every challenge I face is an opportunity for growth." But to be honest, sometimes challenges just feel like challenges. How do we reframe that, in our minds?
That's such a good question. And yeah, it's not always easy. But, research suggests that if we can actually reframe challenges as opportunities to learn, it can actually help us stress less and become better problem solvers.
Oh, interesting.
It's like shifting from, ugh, why is this happening to me, to, okay, what can I learn from this?
Yeah, it's about finding the lesson, even if it's kind of hidden, right, under a lot of other stuff. I like that. Okay, this next one really resonated with me. It says, I am worthy of love, joy, and success. And I think sometimes we all need that reminder, you know?
I agree
So
totally.
what's going on with this affirmation?
Well, it's kind of going after those negative beliefs we have about ourselves, those things that can really hold us back. It's about recognizing like your own inherent worth, regardless of like what you've accomplished or even your mistakes. By saying that you're worthy, you're kind of opening yourself up to receiving good things.
So it's about quieting that inner critic, like embracing self-love.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Okay, let's see. This one's a little out there. It says, I radiate positivity and attract positivity. It's like a law of attraction thing, like karma or something.
Well, there's actually a psychological principle called the Pygmalion effect. Have you heard of
I
that?
don't think so.
Basically, it's the idea that what we expect can actually influence how we act, right? And then that affects how other people respond to us. So when we like radiate positivity, we're more likely to have positive experiences and interactions.
So it's not just about feeling good yourself, but it's actually kind of changing the energy around you.
Exactly.
Wow. That's pretty powerful stuff. Okay, let's see. This one's a big one. I am in control of my thoughts and emotions. But is that even possible, like all the time? I mean, life throws some crazy stuff at us.
Yeah, good point. It's not about pretending we're always happy, or trying to like suppress our emotions. It's more about recognizing that like we have a choice in how we respond to them, right? We can either like spiral out of control with our thoughts or we can choose to like observe them and process them and then, kind of guide them in a direction that's more positive.
Oh, so it's like taking control of what's going on inside, even when it feels like messy.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, we've got a few more here. This one's about gratitude. It says, I am grateful for this day and the opportunities it brings. I've heard that gratitude can be really good for you. Is there truth to that?
Yeah, definitely. There's actually a lot of research that shows like practicing gratitude can make you happier, less stressed, and it can even be good for your physical health.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. And this affirmation, it reminds us to appreciate what we have,
Mhm.
like just being present in the moment and appreciating all the good things, no matter how big or small they are.
It's like shifting your focus,
Yeah.
right? From what you don't have to what you do have.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, last one for now. It says, I have the strength to overcome any obstacle. Honestly, some days I feel anything bitchy strong.
Uh-huh. I think we all feel that way sometimes. But this affirmation, it's like this powerful reminder that we all have strength inside us, like resilience, stuff we might not even realize we have. It's all about tapping into that and believing that you can handle those challenges, even when you don't feel that strong in the moment.
Yeah, it's like a pep talk from, like, your wisest self. Okay, we've covered a lot. We've got one more affirmation to talk about, but I'm curious, out of all the ones we've talked about so far, which one, like, really stands out to you?
Ooh, that's a tough one. They all kind of touch on different parts of like positive thinking.
Yeah.
But if I had to pick, I think the one about choosing to focus on the positive really speaks to me.
Yeah.
It reminds me that I have a choice in how we see things. You know what I mean? Like how I perceive the world around me.
Yeah, I like that one too. It's about being in control of your thoughts,
Yeah.
even when things are tough.
Right.
Okay, let's get to this last one. It says, I am surrounded by love and support. Sometimes it's easy to feel alone, especially when you're struggling. So how can this affirmation help with that?
Well, I think it's all about recognizing that we're connected. We're
Ah.
social creatures and feeling loved and supported is like super important to us, to our well-being.
Mhm.
This affirmation kind of reminds us that we're not alone, even when it feels like it. And it encourages us to reach out, connect with people we care about and build those relationships, that support system.
Sometimes we just need that reminder, huh? Like that we're part of something bigger.
Yeah.
So we've now gone through all those specific affirmations from the stuff you sent. And what I'm noticing is how they touch on so many different things,
Yeah.
like self-love, resilience, gratitude, connection. It's like a whole toolkit for having a more positive mindset.
Yeah, I see what you mean. And it brings up something important, which is affirmations, they're not one size fits all. What resonates with one person might not work for someone else. It's about finding the ones that really feel true to you, and empowering.
Right, yeah, it's about personalizing it. But even with the best affirmations, there are going to be days when it's hard to believe them, right?
Mm.
Like, what about when you're going through a really tough time and it feels almost impossible to say those positive things and really mean it? What would you tell someone who's struggling with that?
You're right. That's a really important point. Affirmations, they're not magic, and they won't just make all the bad stuff disappear or make you think positive thoughts all the time. There will be days when it's tough, and that's totally okay. The important thing is to be kind to yourself,
Yeah.
and don't beat yourself up if you have doubts. If you're having trouble believing an affirmation, maybe try saying it a different way or pick a different one that feels easier to connect with in that moment. It's also important to just acknowledge your feelings, and let yourself feel them without judging yourself.
So it's like being patient with yourself, not getting discouraged when you have those moments, right? I like that. The stuff you sent also talked about how it's not enough to just say the words, but you have to really feel them, you know? Like creating this mindful space, finding a quiet spot, maybe lighting a candle, and really connecting with what each affirmation means. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think making a ritual out of it can be really helpful. It's about being intentional,
Yeah.
Like you're making this a conscious choice, not just something you do on autopilot. It doesn't have to be anything fancy or take a long time. Even just a few minutes can make a difference. It's about finding what works for you and creating a space where you can really focus on those affirmations.
Yeah, I love that. It's like turning it from a chore into something that has meaning.
Yeah.
So we've talked about why affirmations are powerful, gone through a bunch of examples, and even talked about some of the challenges and stuff. Before we go on, is there anything else that you think is important for our listeners to know about this whole thing?
Yeah, one thing I want to emphasize is that affirmations, they're not a replacement for getting help from a professional.
Hmm.
If you're dealing with serious mental health stuff, it's really important to talk to someone who's qualified, like a therapist or a counselor. Affirmations can be a great tool, but they're not going to solve everything.
That's a really good point. It's about knowing when you need to get help from a professional, right? Okay, we've covered a lot in this deep dive, but we've only talked about affirmations for ourselves.
Yeah.
What if we took this a step further? The stuff you sent, like, kind of mentioned affirmations, but like outward, like spreading kindness and being positive towards other people. What do you think about that?
Oh, I love that idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like that whole ripple effect thing, but taking it to a whole other level. So instead of it just being about how we feel, our own well-being, we're actually actively choosing to make the people around us feel better too.
And so it's not just like me, feeling good, but it's more about like trying to actually make things better for everyone else too.
Exactly. Imagine if you started your day with an affirmation that was like, today I'm going to be kind and compassionate to everyone I meet. Just that little change, that intention could really change how you interact with people and the energy you bring to the world.
Okay, I'm convinced. We've talked about like all the sciencey stuff behind affirmations, gone through tons of examples, and even talked about some of the harder parts. So as we wrap this up, what's the one thing you really want our listeners to take away from this?
Hmm. I think the most important thing is that our thoughts are powerful, really powerful.
Oh yeah.
They shape how we see things, how we feel, and they even end up affecting our experiences. So when we choose to focus on those positive, empowering thoughts, it creates this ripple effect that goes way beyond just us.
So it's not just about feeling good, but using your thoughts to make real changes, like inside yourself and the world around you.
That's it. And morning affirmations, they're like these little nudges. They can help you start your day in a more positive, fulfilling way.
I love that.
Mm.
Okay, before we go, one last thing for our listeners. We've talked about a lot of affirmations today, but don't feel like you have to stick to just those ones. Come up with your own, ones that really fit what you want and what you're going through. Maybe there's something specific in your life you want to change or, make more positive. Get creative with it. Play around with different affirmations until you find the ones that really click for you.
Yeah, that's such good advice. It's like making it your own. It can make it even more powerful.
And remember, it's all about doing it consistently. The more you use those affirmations, the more they'll become like a part of your life, and they'll start to shape how you see the world. So to everyone listening, tell us what you think. What really stood out to you today? Which affirmation are you going to try out tomorrow morning? And how are you going to share that positive energy with everyone else? Make the world a little brighter, right?
Don't forget, every day is a fresh start, a chance to use the power of positive thinking and make a difference.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of morning affirmations. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those good vibes going.